Hey everyone, it's Andrew. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a video doing a review and initial taste test of the Blessed plant-based protein powder in their chocolate coconut flavor. This is a product that I actually received from the company for review in this video. And I just finished working out at the gym and I went for a 3-mile run. And so I thought it would be appropriate to do this video at this time. And so what we'll do in this video is discuss the packaging, the nutritional value of the protein powder, its ingredients. Then I'll walk through an initial taste test with using this protein powder with both water as well as a chocolate flavored almond milk. As always, if you're interested in potentially purchasing this, there will be links in the description below for where you can find it on Amazon. Okay, so this is the Blessed plant-based protein powder in their chocolate coconut flavor. I actually received this from the company about a month and a half ago, but just haven't gotten around to doing this review. And so the unique thing about this protein powder is it's strictly plant-based and that it's derived from pea protein isolate. So each serving is going to encompass 23 grams of protein that is strictly plant-based and is not derived from animal or milk products. So for those of you that are vegetarian or vegan, this is a very good protein as far as aligning with your overall nutritional goals. This container is going to be their 1.18 pound container. Each serving is going to be 1 scoop, as I discussed, with 23 grams of protein, and there's going to be a total of 15 servings per container. If you look online, currently this is priced about $38 on Amazon, and so if you do the math, that comes out to about $2 per serving, which is very comparable to other plant-based protein powders on the market. Below here, they list additional features or things that they wanted to highlight with this product. So it's gluten-free, it's vegan-friendly, it's dairy-free, and it's non-GMO. And so it's a really good, clean product as far as how it's created. So it's very favorable for those of you who want to minimize additional either specific ingredients in your diet or specific processed foods in your diet as well. So now what we'll do is we'll take a look at the actual nutritional value. Hopefully you can see this on the actual container, but as I discussed, one serving is going to be 1 scoop. There should be a scoop in the container, and there's going to be 15 servings per the container. As far as calories, it's going to be 140 calories per serving, and there's going to be 3.5 grams of fat, one of those being saturated fat. The unique thing about plant-based proteins is that they will encompass carbohydrates because it's derived from plant-based products. You don't usually see that with whey protein because with animal products, you're not going to have carbohydrates. And so you see here that there's actually going to be 6 grams of carbohydrates in 1 serving. As I discussed, there's going to be 23 grams of protein. There's going to be 40 milligrams of calcium, 6.9 milligrams of iron, which is actually really high for a product like this, thinking of kind of how it's derived. And then there's going to be 370 milligrams per serving of sodium. One thing I did want to highlight with plant-based proteins is that you do want to always look at the sodium content. So recently I've been in the market for different protein powders. I've looked at a wide variety of products. And when you look at the plant-derived or plant-based protein powders, there's a huge variety in the quantity of sodium per serving. So I've seen products that encompass anywhere from 200 to 700 milligrams of sodium per serving. And so if you're using a product like this, we're using 1 to 2 scoops per day. If it's on that higher end where it's 600 to 700 milligrams per serving, you're looking at almost 1.5 grams of sodium per scoop or 2 servings of protein powder, which is extremely high for your diet. And so for those of you that are at high risk for high blood pressure or hypertension, by having that much sodium, you're just putting yourself at higher risk. So always look at the sodium content. This is kind of the middle of the road as far as the sodium content, which is very reasonable for this product. And then it has 190 milligrams of potassium because it's derived from pea protein. As far as additional information, as far as the ingredients, it's going to be hard for me to read here, but basically the ingredients are listed here. So it's going to be raw pea protein isolate that's sprouted. There's going to be cocoa that's processed with alkali, natural flavor, sunflower creamer, which encompasses sunflower oil, maltodextrin, which is actually a sweetener, brown rice syrup solids, and delta alpha tocopherols. Of those ingredients, the maltodextrin is probably the most processed one within which that. And then there's vegetable gums that are going to be gum acea, xanthan gum. Those are basically going to be thickeners for the product. And then they list salt, which is the main highlight that I want to point, that they, for some reason, they always add salt for plant-based protein powders, which I think is really for a preservative or the taste. And then the sweetener is going to be stevia leaf extract, and then psyllium seed powder is going to be an additional thickener. And so of these, the only main processed ingredient is really the maltodextrin as far as a sweetener. Beyond that, it's a very clean product. It's going to be vegan-friendly, dairy-free, gluten-free, and non-GMO as far as the product. As far as instructions, what it says is mix 1 scoop with 10 ounces of chilled water or almond milk in a shaker bottle, and that's kind of that there. And then they list some information regarding the company, kind of their overall goals and things like that, which I'm not going to go into now. And real quick, what I'll do is just open up this container, show you what the actual protein powder looks like, and then what we'll do is we'll do a taste test with this using both water and chocolate almond milk that I already have around the house. And so as you can see here, one second, there is a scoop. I just want to pull it out and not make a mess because it's kind of like turned around. Okay, and so this is what it looks like. So it's like a very powdery mix. It's very different than whey protein. It doesn't have that like gritty or kind of greasy kind of texture. It really reminds me of cocoa powder as far as what it looks like. This is the scoop size, so this is going to be 1 serving for each protein powder. So if you use this scoop, you'll get 23 grams of protein using that. And as you can tell, there's probably about 15 servings in this container, and it's filled about half the container for this plastic container. And so that's what it looks like. It is kind of like powdery and flaky, so you do have to be very careful when you open it. It does make kind of a mess from that standpoint, but I would describe it very similar to the composition of cocoa powder as compared to other protein powders that are plant-based. And now what we'll do is we'll set up the camera and we'll do a taste test as far as using this with water as well as chocolate almond milk. All right, so we're gonna make this taste test as official as it can possibly be. And so we've got the protein powder, we've got 2 separate blender bottles, we have chocolate flavored almond milk from Hannaford, and then I've got my water filter, which is the Pro 1 filter that really removes any contaminants. And so what we'll do is we're actually going to use my coffee scale, which is the Time War Black Mirror Classic, and what we'll do is weigh out 300 milliliters of water or almond milk for each container. And so really what we're doing here is we're going to just basically tare this. We're going to add the actual protein powder. So there's going to be 1 scoop in the actual container, which we'll add right now. And 1 scoop is going to encompass about 40 grams of protein powder. We're going to tare this again. And then for the first taste test, we're going to actually add the almond milk. And so we're going to add 300 milliliters or 300 grams of almond milk to this actual container. And that's about that. I'm over that now. I'm like 311. I got distracted. But that's 300. So it's about half this container for 1 serving. And so that's the quantity that they recommend as far as getting this together. So I'm gonna click down the lid here, make sure that it's actually all the way down, and then we'll just shake this up and see how the consistency is after shaking it up and getting it in the container. I personally, with these blender bottles, don't use like blender ball or whatever that comes in it. I usually just shake it up and it usually works pretty well. There is usually some residue at the bottom that kind of sticks there, and so we'll kind of see how this shakes up. All right, so there's some residual residue there that I probably can't get out of that, but it is what it is. And then next, so this is what it looks like as far as consistency. And so it's kind of like a chocolatey milk consistency. It definitely blended as far as the top, except for the bottom where it got stuck in the nook and cranny. That's kind of normal with this type of bottle. And we'll just taste test this right now. So I'll describe, first off, I'll say the texture is a little bit of a gritty texture. You do have like a grittiness within this where the powder is not like completely dissolved in the actual container. There's just like a texture to it that's a little bit different than other protein powders. I've heard this before with plant-based protein powders, and so that's very common. As far as the taste, it tastes really good. Mixed with the chocolate almond milk, I've got no complaints whatsoever. It tastes chocolatey. I don't really taste a coconut flavor to it, and that might be the reason why the chocolate, because of it's chocolate almond milk. But it tastes chocolatey. I've got no complaints, and it doesn't taste salty. It doesn't taste like thick or creamy or anything like that. It's really just like a gritty fineness to it that is most likely because it's pea-based protein powder, and otherwise it tastes really good. So that's the almond milk. So I'll say overall I'd rate that like 8 out of 10 as far as flavor and texture and things like that. The only nuance to this is the grittiness that's related to that, and that's very common for plant-based protein powders. I just have never tried it before. So that's the almond milk. Now what we'll do is, sorry I made a mess here, I'll just use my shirt because I've got nothing better to use right now. But now what we'll do is we'll do the same exact thing with water. It'll be a little bit more, like little harder to do this. What we'll do first is we'll add a scoop of protein. The reason why I always add it at the bottom is if you add it at the top, it seems to just kind of like soak on the top and doesn't completely kind of blend in. And so you always run the risk of it getting stuck in the nook in the bottom, but it's something that it is what it is. All right, so we'll tare this right now, and then what we'll do is we're gonna add about 300 milliliters of water. I'll just have to weigh this kind of several times. And so we're at 350, but it is what it is. I tried to do my best. As far as consistency, we'll take a look at this, we'll mix it up. And so with water, very similarly, you're getting a little bit of residue at the bottom of the bottle. And that's just probably the nature of these bottles. But as far as the consistency, let's take a look at it. So it's a little bit different than the almond milk. So if you take a look at it, it's a little bit more watery. It's not as a thick consistency. It's kind of like the watery chocolate milk or watery protein powder. We'll take a taste test of this now. And so this I'll describe, like that gritty texture does come out a little bit more with the water because I think it's because with the almond milk's a little bit thicker consistency, so it makes it a little bit smoother. Versus this, you do kind of feel like the grittiness of the plant-based protein powder does stand out a little bit more. So it's definitely more noticeable. As far as the taste, the overall taste, I'll say it's kind of like a watered down version of the almond milk version. It does still taste chocolatey. It doesn't really taste coconut flavor. Like I don't taste any coconut behind this, but it just basically like tastes like chocolate mixed with it tastes like chocolate milk mixed with kind of like a little bit of a watered down kind of flavoring. I wouldn't complain about this. I'd say it's probably like 6 out of 10 as far as the flavor. I don't really have complaints about the overall taste or anything. I'll say the texture and the grittiness is a new flavor for me, or texture to me. So that's new, but it's something that I wouldn't really complain about. I wouldn't have any problems with. So overall, I'll say that it's like 6 out of 10 mixed with water. I'll say that it's like 8 out of 10 as far as flavor with the almond milk. In general, I don't really have any complaints about this. As a plant-based protein powder, it seems to be a great option. The quantity of protein per serving is 23 grams, which is good. Usually my goal for when I'm doing a post-workout, like recovery type of drink, is about 35 to 40 grams of protein. So I'm looking at using about a scoop and a half of protein powder per serving. And the majority of the time what I do is I just fill this up entirely with water. I don't tend to use almond milk as far as drinking post like recovery, because really the majority of the time I just down it real quick and drink it, so I'm not as worried about the taste. But as compared to other protein powders I've had in the past, this is definitely a step up. The only thing is that gritty texture that comes with it being plant-based and pea protein. As far as the salt content, it's middle of the road. I don't really have any complaints as far as the overall taste. It's not overly sweet, it's not overly salty. It just tastes like a good general way to get protein in your diet. The biggest complaint I'd have, or kind of the concern I'd have, is that the overall price. If you're looking at this container, it's 1.18 pounds, and you're only getting about 15 servings per the container. And so that gives you and it costs about $40. So you're looking at about like $2 per serving, which is a little bit expensive for a protein powder. Lately, I've been really transitioning, kind of getting more protein from my diet. I do use protein powder in the morning as a substitute, because I've become more vegan friendly and vegetarian as I've transitioned away from meat. And so this is a great option as far as introduction to plant-based proteins. I'd say that it's a little bit expensive for my taste, but as compared to other things on the market and other very good ingredient friendly products, this is a great product on the market. If you look at the cheaper protein powders that are plant-based or are like whey-based, they do have a lot more synthetic synthetic or processed foods in their protein powders. So the fact that this is dairy-free, gluten-free, vegan-friendly, non-GMO, it really checks off all the boxes as far as being sustainable and a good product for getting your protein from a vegan-friendly standpoint, and not having to worry about other contaminants in your protein powder. So in general, I'm really happy with it. It's a little bit expensive for what I personally would pay, but I'm also frugal the majority of the time. But the taste is pretty good. The texture is just nuance, and that's something new for me because it's plant-based alone. So I hope this video was very helpful. If you're interested in purchasing the Blessed plant-based protein powder, I'll leave a link in the description below. They've got a wide variety of flavors. You can check those other flavors out, but this is the chocolate coconut one. It really just tastes like a chocolate flavor. I don't really notice much coconut, but I've got no complaints about the flavor. It's really the texture that's a little bit nuanced with this type of product. So if you have questions, comments, post them below. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer them. And if you like this video, hit the like button, and you can always subscribe to my channel as well.